Hi Matt, it's Sister Folk. I'm just going to go ahead and do your critique here, your optional video critique. Thanks for opting in. First of all, I wanted to talk to you about your file. So you uploaded the project report, which is not actually what I was talking about, but I was able to scroll down to your project draft and find this. But you do need to save this as either a PDF or a JPEG. Okay. Needs to be saved as one of these. For both your draft critique that you should have already posted, let me show you where, to the L05 classmate critique. Um, here. Okay, so I don't know if you've already posted it, but I just want to clarify that JPEG or PDF needs to be posted here, not your project report and not the InDesign file, because your classmates are not going to be able to give you an appropriate critique if the file loads and it's looking all wonky because they don't have the same fonts or InDesign bumps something over, which happens a lot. Okay, so thanks for updating it with the spread so I can at least give you your video critique. But be sure that you have these saved, and then when you turn it in, you need to do that. And I don't know if you are unfamiliar with how to do that, so let me just show you really quick. Once you have your file open, you're going to go to File, Export, and then here you're actually going to save it as Adobe PDF Print, or you could, for the discussion board, save it as a JPEG. But when you turn it in to me, you need to always upload it as a PDF. Okay, and this is what you will do for all of your future projects in InDesign. So it's something to know, something good to know how to do anyway. All right, so let's go ahead and I kind of zoomed in, and so I can give you some critique here. I'm assuming you took this image and probably this image, and then this one is from somewhere else, and obviously this one of President Eyring you didn't take. So first of all, I like that you have your two images in here. You have some interesting color going on. I'm assuming this is a meme created by someone else, and so since you did not create this yourself, I'm going to say that it's probably not okay to have it in here because this is you showcasing that you know how to use typography. So if you want this to act as your pull quote, which that's a really cool scripture, so it might work well, you can go ahead and create a pull quote that is like this, but not a picture that's been inserted that someone else made. Unless you did make this yourself, in that case, then you can go ahead and use it, okay? And then one thing I would say is you have a lot going on. You have 5 images, and I would recommend probably a maximum of 3. So this counts as an image. This kind of visually looks like an image, and then these 3 as well. So I'd get rid of this one. I don't think you need it. One of the most important things you need to remember is that in a magazine spread, you don't need to have something in every corner. White space is your friend. If you have empty space, use it to allow a little bit more space between these columns. Use it to allow your eye to flow off the page. Use it to have a little bit more room between an item that you've created and maybe the columns around it, things like that. And so white space is valuable. On this intro page, you actually have some white space kind of around President Eyring's head, and I would recommend that you go ahead and take this image and you make it a full bleed. Okay, so pull it so it's off the page. Right now it's a little bit, look at a little bit disproportionate because it's almost off the page down here, but it's not. And then you have kind of a thick amount of space up here and over here and over here. So take this image of him, and if you want it to be this big, just go ahead and pull it all the way off the page. Then, if it's getting a little bit hard to read, which I think it might be, my guess is that right here it's going to be kind of illegible. You could get rid of this column perhaps and just do a nice little paragraph or 2 right here on the dark color of President Eyring's suit jacket. And then prophecy and personal revelation, you have this in a contrasting typography, so that's off to a good start. I would say push it even more, maybe try to make the words a different size. Maybe you have prophecy and revelation in a script, and then and personal could be something similar to this. And this is small and these are big, or prophecy is really big and it goes, uh, maybe this large all the way across like this, and then and personal revelation is underneath it in a really crisp, clean sans serif. Let me show you kind of some of the things that you could play around a little bit with. One idea would be to kind of model it after something like this. So envision if you have prophecy in one color and kind of large, and then and personal revelation in a contrasting typeface and in a complementary color. That way you're showing me you understand how to use color and you understand how to use contrasting typography in a group of text that is kind of in close proximity together and working together. Okay, so that would be a good area. Then let's look at the title of this one. See how these are large? This is actually pretty similar to what I was saying. Envision you just have prophecy and then and personal revelation underneath it. And then perhaps whoever was the person who wrote this article could be underneath that. You even have an and. See how this is a super large ampersand in the background? Looks really cool. Okay, so try to push yourself on this a little bit. I would love to see it all not the same color, not all the same typeface, but contrast within your title. And then you probably need to make this column definitely less wide. See how you have this white on the white shirt? You always want to be sure to avoid that. All right. And then moving here, I'm curious where this bright green is coming from in your color scheme. So look at your images, maybe look at this one or perhaps look at this one, and I would recommend you to pick out complementary colors that go with this. So maybe you pick out this red that's the bookmark in the Bible, and then maybe this kind of light turquoise here for kind of a background color. I think perhaps, oops, I'm sorry, let me pull this down. You're still looking up at the top there. I think you maybe are pulling the colors from here, but it's pretty abrasive to be reading black on this super bright green. Something else you want to be aware of is you never want to end a shape where you have words end. So see how all of these words are ending right on the edge of these colors? Instead, what I would recommend you do if you want to use a color, and I would probably recommend if you keep the green, you need to make it lighter so that these aren't competing for your attention, is take your shape and make it flow off the page so it looks something like that perhaps. Or maybe you make it go all the way across and it's behind the image, following the rule of 1/3. See how I've cut this 2-page spread into thirds, and on the horizontal is where I'm going to have an interesting shape. Okay, so you could do something like that. Then the rest down here could stay white. And maybe you decide to make this image a full bleed, which would be really nice. You have the image come all the way up here or all the way down here, or maybe you put that on the bottom 2/3, and then you just tuck 2 little columns of writing in here. And then this page has all of your writing with maybe the image in the middle. I will say, let me click off of that, that there's something a little weird going on here. You either need to make this image larger within your oval, or change the shape to a square or something. I actually like the oval. It gives a little bit of variety to how rectangular and squared your different elements are here, but you need to make it bigger so it's not awkwardly cut off with this white space up here and kind of a weird cut off egg shape. You could make it more of a circle and instead of an oval, and that might kind of help you be able to read more of the scriptures. I would encourage you to, you're off to a good start with your subheadings, but I would encourage you to also do them in a different typeface so they really stand out. And then this is a good place to use color as opposed to everywhere in the background in these subheadings. Or if, like I mentioned, you want to have some color in the background, I do like that you have it contrasting with white and black. So maybe you could do something along those lines still, or maybe you pull this green and that's what these are in. So think a little bit more about the colors. You have this bright blue and this bright green and this bright pink. If you're not using this, then really your color palette is bright blue and bright green, but those aren't reflected in your images. So kind of keep on trying to think about your images, the colors that are already going to be on the page, and then use those to your advantage. Something else is I don't see a text wrap. So make sure you go back, if you don't know how to do it, go back and watch the video that went along with the worksheet for this section on text wrap and get a text wrap on here, since that is one of those minimum expectations for this assignment. Also, it looks like you still have your hyphens turned on, excuse me, in the paragraph palette. So be sure to turn those hyphens off, and that's going to help this instantly look more professional. Okay. I am going to say some of the things that I think will help it the most, just as kind of a reminder, is focus on white space. A lot of times that looks like bringing in your columns from the sides of the pages, so they're a little bit more narrow. It looks like adding a little bit more space between where you start your columns and where the page starts. It looks like larger images. And larger title, because here's the flow. When you look at the magazine spread, I want your images to pop first. Second is your title. Third is anything written on the page. Okay, so I've probably given you a lot of suggestions. If you want to, you can go ahead and work on a second draft and then email me that second draft, and I'll provide you with a few final pointers on direction before you submit your final. Okay, thanks, Matt.